Hello everyone, I welcome you all in the online lecture for the subject English. But before we could start anything, I would like to wish you all the best for the 12th standard. And one more thing, I would like to congratulate you all for passing 11th standard and getting admission in the 12th standard. So let's get started. See students, this is a picture I have for you people. Yes, you can see the name of the book cover is Malgudi Days. Have you heard anything about Malgudi Days ever? Do you know anything about Malgudi Days? If yes, it is fine. If not, let's have some information about it. Friends, Malgudi Days, this book was written by the great Indian English writer R.K. Narayan during 1940s. The Malgudi Days book and other stories were published by him before or just after independence. But if you see the stories from Malgudi Days, you may relate even today because the content is very relevant. Because Malgudi Days is basically deal with the characterization, the good characters, bad characters, funny characters and whatnot. And as you know that society is with some characters. People may change, but characters will remain the same. Yes. There was a very famous TV serial based on the book Malgudi Days, and the title of the serial was Malgudi Days. It was very popular amongst the people that time. It is considered as one of the best serials ever produced by Doordarshan for the people of India. So we have one story from Malgudi Days. Let's go to it. Now before we go to the content, to the story, let's have some fun. Can you see this picture? Yes. It is of a palm. It is of hand. If you see the picture, you will find that some signs are there. Some headings are there, like finger of Jupiter, finger of Saturn, finger of Sun, etc., etc. Now see this another picture. This may find some familiar aspects. Yes, it is about zodiac signs. We all know that. As many as 12 signs are there. So can you analyze what might be the content of the lesson with the help of these two pictures? Some people may analyze. Definitely. Yes, you are right. It is about astrology. See one more picture. Here, that astrologer is dealing with his customer. The hand of the customer is in the hand of astrologer. As always, it is there. So astrology is mainly based on some zodiac signs, some hand structure, some lines on your hand and all that. So the person who deals with astrology is called as astrologer. Have you gone to any astrologer ever? Have you shown your hand to anyone? If not, there is one lesson for us. It is about astrology. Let's go to it. And the name of the lesson is An Astrologer's Day. Of course, it is written by the great R.K. Narayan. Let's go to it. See page number 1 of your textbook. Section 1, An Astrologer's Day. As we have already discussed, it is written by R.K. Narayan. Before we could deal with the lesson, see the icebreakers on page number 1. See, the first table talks about strengths, why do you feel so, and dream career. As you know that if someone wants to be a cricketer, why do that person feel so? Because he can bowl, he can bat, he can field. If someone wants to be a writer, why do that person feel so? Because he can visualize, he can write, he can deal with the different ideas and something like that. Here is one example of strengths, painting and drawing. If someone feels that that person can visualize or express things, so that person can be a commercial artist or cartoonist. With the reference of cartoonist, I remember one famous name, Mr. R.K. Lakshman. Yes, the famous or the most popular cartoonist India have ever produced. And one interesting fact about Mr. R.K. Lakshman is he was the brother of R.K. Narayan, the writer of this particular lesson. And there are other icebreakers which was given on page number 1. Let's go to it quickly. The scene in a local market of a village, town, city is very attractive. Yes, we know that. The scene of any market is always attractive. Many people are doing many things. People with which different occupations sell their wares. Now we have to discuss something about them. Once you go to the market, what is the scenario? What is the scene do you find there? Yes, first is people are selling some flowers, people are selling some groceries, and so many things are going on in the market. People are selling some clothes, people are selling some baskets, people are selling utensils, and all other things are there. Now see next one. In a village, town, city, it is quite a common sight to see an astrologer sitting by the roadside with his professional equipment. Yes, this is very common sight, especially in villages and towns. Nowadays, you may not see some astrologers strolling on the roadside or on the road, but in villages and in towns, even today also, there are some astrologers. They are sitting with their own equipments at the roadside. Now, if you have seen any astrologer by the roadside, have you seen his equipments? Yes, one is given for you, parrot, cards, etc. Can you give me other things? Discuss with your friends and tell me afterwards. Now next thing is, there are certain unreasoning beliefs among people living in our society. Yes, certain common events are linked with superstitions. List such events, discuss the superstitions linked with them and the mean to their eradication. Now one is given for you, a cat crossing your path. It is always considered as a bad sign in India. Though as we know that all these things are without any hesitation, these things are useless. There is no relation of that particular cat with your work or whatever you are going to do in your life. So this is one such thing. This is one superstition. So all these things are there. So many things are there. You can have in groups and discuss with your friends, and you can write down them in the textbook with pencil or on a paper in your notebook with the pen. Now there is something about Mr. R.K. Narayan. R.K. Narayan was born in 1906 and he died in 2001. So in his long life, he had written so many books. He got Sahitya Akademi Award, which is considered as the best award in India for any writer for his novel, The Guide. Now this particular story, An Astrologer's Day, is picked up from Malgudi Days, a popular work of Mr. R.K. Narayan. Let's go to the content very quickly. See on page number 2, first paragraph. Punctually at midnight, he opened his bag and spread out his professional equipment, which consisted of a dozen cowrie shells, a square piece of cloth, and obscure mystic charts on it. So one has to say that the person we are talking about, he was very punctual. Very first word of the lesson or the story gives us the idea about his punctuality. Punctually means every day that person used to come to that particular place with his professional equipments which are needed for his astrology profession. They were like this: cowrie shells, a square piece of cloth with obscure mystic charts. You may have seen such charts while sitting with astrologer, a notebook, some mystic words in it, and a bundle of Pamera writing. Pamera writing means something which we don't understand, but we are very eager to know what actually they are. Another one. His forehead was resplendent with sacred ash and vermilion, and his eyes sparkled with a sharp, abnormal gleam, which was really an outcome of the continual searching look for customers, but which his simple clients took to be prophetic light and felt comforted. See, there is an irony in this information, you can say. He used to search for his customers, and his customers used to think that his eyes were sparkling. Don't you see there is some irony in this? Yes. The power of his eyes was considerably enhanced by their position placed as they were between the painted forehead and the dark whiskers which streamed down his cheeks. Even a half-wit size would sparkle in such a setting. To crown the effect, he wound a saffron-colored turban around his head. So one and all we can say that the writer is talking about the appearance, the attire of the astrologer. And as you know that attire or the appearance is very important for any professional person. If you are a professional person, true professional person, take the example of doctor. Without that person talk to you, how do you understand that the person is a doctor? Yes, with the help of his attire, maybe stethoscope, his clothes, and other things are there. Just like that, any other professional, they need some equipments, they need some attire, they need some personality to show the people that yes, I'm doing this business, I'm from this profession. So does that person. This color scheme never failed. He used to have that kind of attire quite regularly. There wasn't any change in his attire. There wasn't any need for that actually. People were attracted to him as bees are attracted to cosmos or dahlia stalks. This is very common sight. Whether you believe in astrology or not, but everyone wants to know what is there in his or her future. Am I right? Yes. But ironically, not a single astrologer in Maharashtra or outside Maharashtra predicted about coronavirus. Jokes apart. So we are talking about this particular astrologer. He sat under the boughs of spreading tamarind tree which flanked a path running through the town hall park. It was a remarkable place in many ways. So he used to sit at very important place in that particular town. A surging crowd was always moving up and down this narrow road from morning till night. You have to remember one thing while dealing with this particular lesson is the backdrop of this lesson is of 1947. Yes, the very year India got independence. So, some things you may have to analyze from that perspective. Even though we are talking about 1947, the place where this story happens was a crowd. A variety of trades and occupations was represented all along its way. Medicine sellers, sellers of stolen hardware and junk, magicians, and above all, an auctioneer of cheap cloth, who created enough din all day to attract the whole town. Yes. So one and all we can say that that was a busy area where these small businessmen used to sell different things. Most of them were selling some cheap things like stolen hardware or junk, cheap cloth. But people used to gather in that particular area to purchase these particular things. Next to him, in vociferousness, came a vendor of fried groundnut. There was one vendor, and that person used to sell fried groundnut. See the meaning of vociferousness, being loud and noisy. He used to. Have you seen fried groundnut vendors? Especially in the beach side areas of Mumbai. They're always there with their small tokri and fried groundnut. That person which we are talking about, who gave his ware a fancy name each day, calling it. So he used to sell fried groundnut, but he used to call that particular thing in a different way every day. Bombay ice cream one day, and on the next Delhi almond, and on the third Raja's delicacy, and so on. So he used to give a different name for that fried groundnut every day so that the people should come and buy from him. Now this is the mentality of the people. If you want to sell something, if you are saying I want to sell a normal pen, no one would come and buy that pen from you. But if you say I want to sell the best pen in the world, yes, some people may show their interest and you may be able to sell that particular pen because you have given some extra adjective to that pen. So that businessman, fried groundnut vendor, was a sharp-minded person. A considerable portion of his crowd dallied before the astrologer too. The astrologer transacted his business by the light of flare which cracked and smoked up the above groundnut heap nearby. Half the enchantment of the place was due to the fact that it did not have the benefit of municipal lighting. Yes, there was one more thing. The place which we are talking about, it did not covered by the municipal lighting. Either those people had their own light system or something like that, or without light. The place was lit up by shop lights. Yes, municipal lighting was not available in that particular section. One or two had hissing gas lights. Some had naked flares stuck on poles. Some were lit up by old cycle lamps, and one or two, like the astrologer, managed without lights of their own. So some people, like astrologer, they used to manage their own business without light, without any support of light, because in that area uh, those people used to get some light by other shops, like, or cycle lamps were there, some gas lights were there. So our astrologer, he managed without lights of his own. It was a bewildering crisscross of light rays and moving shadows. This suited the astrologer very well, for the simple reason that he had not in the least intended to be an astrologer when he began life. Now, this is something interesting, first of all. That person, though he was running a business of an astrologer, he was considered himself as an astrologer, but he did not mean to be when he began his life. He was forcefully in the business in short. And he knew no more of what was going to happen to others than he knew what was going to happen to himself next minute. So he was not the professional, he was not with the knowledge. That person, though he was showing the people that he was an astrologer, but he did not intend to be an astrologer when he began the life. Plus, he did not know anything about people's life, and furthermore, he did not know anything about his own life. He was as much as a stranger to the stars as were his innocent customers. Yet he said things which pleased and astonished everyone. Yes, but having said that, he was not qualified in that astrology, but he was sharp enough, or he was smart enough to deal with the people. He was very practical one. That was a more matter of study, practice, and shrewd guesswork all the time. All the same, it was as much as honest man's labor as any other, and he deserved the wages he carried home at the end of the day. So these two paragraphs, one and all, from the beginning, if we analyze these two paragraphs and we can club them in a short note, we got to know some idea about a place where that astrologer used to sit. That was an important place in the town. He used to sit, or he used to come for his business in the afternoon, not in the morning, and he used to stay there for longer version of time, maybe till the evening. This is what we have about the place and the astrologer. He had left his village without any previous thought or plan. Yes, there wasn't any plan in his life. He left his village without any plan. There wasn't any plan to leave his village, but he left his village without any plan. If he had continued there, he would have carried on the work of his forefathers. And what was it? Tilling the land, living, marrying, and ripening in his cornfield, an ancestral home. Maybe a farmer type of work. But that was not to be. That was not his fate. He had some different thing in his life. He had to leave home without telling anyone. So he left his house without telling anyone, and he could not rest till he left it behind a couple of 100 miles. So he left his house and he went far away from his village, at least 200 miles from his village. To a villager, it is a great deal, as if an ocean flowed between. Remember, we are talking about the year 1947 and before that. During that time, to leave one's place and to go far from the place where you stay was a big deal. And for a villager, it was a big deal indeed. He had a working analysis of mankind's troubles, their marriage, money, and the tangles of human ties, human nature. Long practice had sharpened his perception. Once you are in a business, once you are in a profession, the long practice makes you perfect. Or if not perfect, you may get some hints, some things, some aspects, how to deal with that profession or business. So within 5 minutes, he understood what was wrong. He charged 3 pies per question. We are talking about 1947 era. So 3 pies was the big amount even that time. He never opened his mouth till the other had spoken for at least 10 minutes. See how shrewd he was, how professional he was. Because for any astrologer, it is very important that his customer should say few things so that the astrologer can analyze what is wrong with that person, and he was like them, which provided him enough stuff for a dozen answers and advices. So within 10 minutes, that customer used to give him answers of his own questions and advices. When he told the person before him, gazing at his palm, In many ways, you are not getting the fullest results for your efforts. This line may appeal everyone, if not all. See, in many ways, you are not getting the fullest results for your efforts. I don't think everyone dislike this line. We always like such thing, that we always feel that I'm the one who is not getting the appreciation. I'm the one who is not getting uh, results as per my efforts. So everyone likes that. And he used to, catch the attention or catch the mind of the customer. 9 out of 10 were disposed to agree with him, or he questioned, is there any woman in your family, maybe even a distant relative, who is not well disposed towards you? Again, one more question. And every one of us likes such questions. Or he gave an analysis of character. Most of your troubles are due to your nature. How can you be otherwise with Saturn where he is? You have an impetuous nature and a rough exterior. This endeared him to their hearts immediately, for even the mildest of us loves to think that he has a forbidding exterior. So he used to catch the attention of the people, and whatever he used to tell them, everyone likes that, like that. Okay. The nuts vendor blew out his flare and rose to go home. This was a signal for the astrologer to bundle up too, since it left him in darkness except for a little shaft of green light which strayed in from somewhere and touched the ground before him. He picked up his cowrie shells and paraphernalia and was putting them back into his bag when the green shaft of light was blotted out. So he used to pack up along with other people around him. He looked up and saw a man standing before him. Now here is one interesting incident in his life. So like any other person, he saw a man, any other customer I mean, he saw a man standing before him. He sensed a possible client and said, so he guessed that he can be a client of that person, an astrologer. So he said, you look so careworn. It will do you good to sit down for a while and chat with me. He said, you are in a worry. Please sit down here and have some chat with me. The other grumbled some reply vaguely. The man was not in a mood to deal with astrologer, to talk to astrologer. The astrologer pressed his invitation, whereupon the other thrust his palm under his nose, saying, you call yourself an astrologer? So there were two men, and one was not interested. Another showed his hand to the astrologer and said, you call yourself an astrologer? This was like a challenge. Yes. The astrologer felt challenged and said, tilting the other's palm towards the green shaft of light, yours is a nature. Oh, stop that, the other said. So he started the way he used to start, on that same note, yours is a nature. And the other man replied that, oh, stop that, I'm not interested in such things. Tell me something worthwhile. Our friend felt piqued. Astrologer was in worry because he was challenged by the customer for the first time. I charge only 3 pies per question, and what you get out to be good enough for your money. He said, I just charge 3 pies for one question and you will get your answer. At this, the other withdrew his arm, took out an anna and flung it out to him, saying, I have some questions to ask. If I prove you are bluffing, you must return that anna to me with interest. So that man was in a mood of challenge to the astrologer. He said, I have some questions to ask. I will ask you some questions. Fine. If you are bluffing, if you are lying, if you are not able to answer, if you are cheating, you must return that anna to me with interest. So he was asking astrologer to give his money back with some interest if that astrologer proved himself a bluff master. If you find my answer satisfactory, will you give me 5 rupees? Astrologer was more sharper. He said, okay, this is what you said, but listen to me. If you find your answer satisfactory, will you give me 5 rupees? And children, believe me, 5 rupees was very big amount that time. The man said no. Or will you give me 8 annas? 8 annas means 50 paise. All right, provided you give me twice as much if you are wrong, said the stranger. So this was the deal between them. If the answer was satisfactory, the stranger would give him 8 annas. If not, the astrologer will return him twice as much he was getting. This pact was accepted after a little further argument. The astrologer sent up a prayer to heaven as the other lit a cheroot. Cheroot is a kind of a cigarette. So today we'll stop here and we will see the remaining part of the lesson in the next lecture. Thank you so much.